Welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're almost done with this reading of The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. And thank you guys and women who made it this far, and aliens, and everyone in between. So we're almost going to be finishing this book. It took me probably like 2 years since I started, but the next one I will move a little bit faster. And it's probably going to be more like set up meditating, probably record myself meditating with the techniques they describe there. So, and then we'll see what kind of dreams we have. But let me get back into this. Golden mean rectangles and spirals around the body. Another scared form we have in life is the spiral. You may wonder where it came from. We're living in a spiral. The galaxy, which has spiraling arms. You're using spirals to listen to the sounds around you because the little apparatus in your ears is in a spiral form. There are spirals all over nature. The more you look, the more you find. Spirals are found in pine cones, sunflowers, a few animal horns, deer antlers, seashells, daisies, and lots of plants. If you put your open hand vertical in front of you, towards your face, notice the movement as you roll your fingers into a fist, starting with your little finger. They trace out a Fibonacci spiral. This is a very special spiral, as you will see. Where do spirals come from? They have to come from somewhere, and they have to be generated out of the dynamics of the original system. The flower of life is what we believe is true. Well, all you have to do is go back to the human body, to the same pattern we came up with for the pi ratio to the human body, to the same pattern we came up with for the pi ratio, see figure 7 and 30. If you simply take the diagonal line, lay it down flat, then complete the rectangle form with that new extension, you have a golden mean rectangle, the source of the golden mean spiral. The outer rectangle of this drawing, fig 7 and 39, is called a golden mean rectangle. The same as above. The same as above. To get another golden mean rectangle, all you have to do is measure the rectangle's shorter edge, side A, and plot that distance along the longer side, side B, which makes a square with equal sides A equals C. The area that's left over, B, is another golden mean rectangle. Then you can take the shorter edge again and plot that distance along the longer edge to make an outer square. And what's left over is another golden mean rectangle. This can continue forever. Notice that each newly formed rectangle is turned 90 degrees. If you run diagonals across each rectangle, their crossing locates the exact center of the spiral they form. You can see how the diagonals become a key for more information. Line F has a golden mean ratio to line E. Continuing inward, we can say that F is to E what G is to F, and H is to G, and I is to H, and so on. There are other kinds of spirals, but the golden mean spiral is paramount in creation. Male and female spirals. There are two kinds of energies that move through golden mean rectangles. One energy is the diagonals that cross the squares, moving at 90 degrees turns, shown in black. That's the male energy. The female energy is the line that keeps curving in towards the center, shown in gray. So you have a female golden mean out logarithmic spiral along with a male spiral that uses straight lines with 90-degree turns at the pi ratio. In much of the work I will show you, we'll be looking only at the male aspect, but you must remember that the female aspect is always there. Some books say that if you draw a horizontal line through the navel in the Vinci's man 7 of 40, what's left over is the lower portion is a golden mean rectangle, and that if you draw a line from the top corner of the large square to the middle point at his feet, the center of the opposite side of the square, that semi-diagonal will pass through the exact center of the golden mean spiral as shown in the figure. You can create a spiral if you draw in the consecutively smaller golden mean rectangles like we did in figure 7 and 39. I've read several books about this and I believe it's almost true, but something else is actually happening that is important to understand if one really wants to know about Mother Nature. In fact, I'm convinced that there are no golden mean rectangles or spirals in existence unless they're synthetically made. Nature does not use golden mean rectangles or spirals. It doesn't know how. The reason nature doesn't know how is because a golden mean spiral will literally go inward forever. Maybe not with a pencil and paper, but technically it will go on forever and ever. It will also go outward forever too, because you can take the longest line of any golden mean rectangle, make a square to get a larger golden mean rectangle, and continue to do this forever. So a golden mean rectangle has no beginning and no end. It will go inward and outward forever. This is a problem for Mother Nature. Life doesn't know how to deal with something that has no beginning and no end. We can sort of deal with something that has no end, but if you think about it, it's difficult to think of something having no beginning. Just try to get that in your mind. Something that has no beginning. This is hard for us because we are geometric beings, and geometry has centers, beginnings. Since life doesn't know how to deal with this, it has found a way to cheat. It has found another spiral to create with. Life figured out a system of mathematics that approximates this so well that you can hardly tell the difference. The books say that this spiral on Leonardo's drawing in figure 7 of 40 is a golden mean spiral, which I can't be true, which I say can't be true. Also, there is not just one little spiral here. There are 8 spirals rotating around the body, one for each golden mean rectangle, connected to 8 possible semi-diagonals around the human body, 7 of 41. This drawing shows the 8 that intersect the human body. Figure 7 of 42 shows the 8 spirals with their 8 centers located around the center of the body in the same pattern and with the same centers as the original 8 cells inside the body, right? Leonardo drew these little lines that makes a grid over and around the body, 7 of 43. There are 4 squares in the center, A, B, C, and D, clockwise, and 8 squares surrounding them, E through L. Those outer 8 squares happen to be where the 8 diagonals of figure 7 of 41 intersect the body, and where the 8 spirals of figure 7 of 42 begin. So we have 8 places around the body and a central pattern of 4 squares in the middle, centered exactly around the original 8 cells. Life is amazing, is it not? When I noticed this about Leonardo's drawing, I figured there must be something important about this relationship. But when I realized that there's no such thing as a golden mean rectangle or spiral in nature, I began to suspect that these spirals were probably something slightly different. And that's what they turned out to be, slightly different. It turns out that these spirals are Fibonacci in nature, which we will explore in the next chapter. Understanding the difference between the golden mean and Fibonacci spirals may seem simple and unimportant until the bigger picture of nature unfolds to reveal something astonishing about this relationship. No one can ever understand why the 83,000 scared sites on Earth were built or what their purpose was without knowing this difference. Recoiling the Fibonacci binary polarity. The Fibonacci sequence and spiral. In order to understand why those 8 spirals around the Vinci canon are not golden mean spirals, and to find out what they are, we have to go to another person, not Leonardo da Vinci, but Leonardo Fibonacci. Fibonacci preceded the Da Vinci by over 200 years. From what I've read about him, he was a monistic, often in a meditative state. He loved to walk through wooden forests and meditate as he was walking, but evidently his left brain was simultaneously active because he started to notice that plants and flowers had numbered associations 8 through 1. Flower petals and leaf and seed patterns correspond to definite numbers, and the flowers on this list are the ones I think he saw. If I've got it right, he noticed that lilies and irises have 3 petals, and that buttercups, larkspurs, and columbines, the flower at the top right in figure 8 through 1, have 5. Some delphiniums have 8 petals. Corn marigolds have 13, and some asters have 21. Daisies almost always have either 34, 55, or 89 petals. He began to see these same numbers over and over again throughout nature. This little plant, figure 8 through 2, doesn't actually exist. We created it with computer graphics, shuffling it around like a deck of cards. The original plant on which this illustration is based is called the sneezewort. We simply made the computer graphics fit that plant. Fibonacci noticed that when the sneezewort plant first came out of the ground, it grew only 1 leaf, just 1 little leaf. As it grew taller farther up on its stem, it grew 1 more leaf. Then a little bit further, it grew 2 leaves, then 3, then 5, then 8, then it had 13 flowers. He probably said, "Gee, those are the same numbers I keep seeing in the petals of other flowers, 3, 5, 8, 13. Then eventually, this sequence of 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 3, 21, 34, 55, 89, and so on, became known as the Fibonacci sequence. If you are given any three consecutive numbers in the sequence, you can recognize the pattern. You simply add two consecutive numbers to get the next number. See? Okay, we're almost done with this. This is the last chapter, so thank you guys for making it. I'm going to try to finish this right now if I can. How it works. This is a very special sequence. It's crucial in life. Why is it important? This is perhaps my interpretation of why, but I'll do my best to show you. This is a hibiscus flower with 5 petals, figure 8 through 3. The stamen inside has 5 terminating buds, and the direction of those two geometric forms are reversed to each other on set pointing up, one set pointing up and one set pointing down. When most people look at this flower, they don't think, let's see, it has 5 petals. They simply look at it, notice it's beautiful, smell it, and experience it from their right brain. They're not thinking about the geometry or mathematics going in the other side of the brain. Life solution to the infinite golden mean, pi spiral. Remember that I said how the golden mean spiral has no beginning and no end, and that life has a hard time with that. It can cope with no end, but has a difficult time grokking something that has no beginning. I have a really hard time doing it, and I think we all wrestle with that situation. What nature did was create the Fibonacci sequence to get around the problem. It's like God said, okay, go out there and create with the golden mean spiral, and we said, we don't know how. So he made up something that is not the golden mean spiral, but it rapidly comes so close that you can hardly tell the difference. Figure 8 through 4. For example, the pi ratio associated with the golden mean is approximated by 1.6180339. Look what happens when you divide each number in the Fibonacci sequence into the next higher number. Here's the sequence in the left column: 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89. In the second column, I shifted the sequence by 1 so we can divide the number in the first column by the number in the second column. See column 3. Notice what happens when you divide a column, 2 numbers into the 1 in column 1. When we divide 1 into 1, we get 1.0 point. Now, 1.0 is a lot less than the pi ratio. But when we go to the next line and divide 1 into 1, we get 2, which is greater than pi, but closer than 1 is. When we divide 2 into 3, we get 1.5, which is a lot closer to pi than either of the previous 2 answers. But it's under 3 into 5 is 1.6666, which is over, but a lot closer. 5 into 8 is 1.60, and it's under. 8 into 3 is 1.625, which is over. 13 into 21 is 1.615. 15 under. 21 into 34 is 1.619 over. 34 into 55, 1.617 under. 55 into 89, 1.6181 over. The next one goes under, then over, each time getting closer and closer to the actual pi ratio. This is called asymptotically. Asymptotically. This one, I'm sorry guys. I know my reading sucks. I'm sorry for butchering it. This is called asymptotically. I don't know. Sorry guys. Forgive me. Reaching a limit. It can never ever reach the actual number. But actually speaking, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference after a few divisions. You can see this geographically in figure 8 through 5. The light gray squares are the 4 central squares of the human body, where the original 8 cells are located. The 8 dark gray squares around these central squares are where the spiral began. Does everybody get that? I'm lost. I'm sorry, my reading's probably getting everybody lost too. If you feel lost, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, hit the notifications, hit that bell, that icon, and y'all know what to do. Okay. Rather than having them spiraling in forever and ever, we're going to do something different because this is what life does, I believe. I'm going to use one of the outer squares as my starting point, and this will be true for all 8. I'm choosing one of them as an example. Using a diagonal across just one of tiny background squares as our measure. Using a diagonal across just one of the tiny background squares as our measure. Sorry, I feels like I didn't even read it right. We'll call this diagonal line 1 unit. Then we move according to the Fibonacci number 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 89 with a 90-degree turn after each number. In our first step, we go 1 length, then turn 90 degrees and go 1 again. Then we turn 90 degrees and go 2 lengths. 2 lengths, turn another 90 degrees and go 3 lengths. Between each step, we take a 90-degree turn. The next step is 5 units long, then 8. So we have 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Then we diagonally cross 21 squares, then 34, figure 8 through 6, then 55, then 89, figure 8 through 7. As we do this, the spiral unfolds and gets closer and closer to pi, the golden mean spiral, until very rapidly there's no way to tell the difference in life, at least visually. Comparing the 2 spirals must have been a very important feature if one studied life, because the ancient Egyptians displayed both the Fibonacci and the golden mean spiral at the Great Pyramid. Even though the spirals have 2 different origins, by the time they get out to steps 55 and 89, the 2 lines are practically identical. When people who studied Egypt saw the 3 pyramids lined up on the spiral, they thought it was the golden mean, not the Fibonacci spiral. Then they came back and found one of the holes referred to page 109. Several years later, they realized that just a little ways away, maybe 100 yards or so, was another marker. They hadn't realized there were 2 spirals. I don't know whether the people working with this understand its significance even yet. The Spiral and yeah, I just had a flashback reading this that after I read this book, right? No, before I even read this book in 2010, I had this dream that I went through the Sphinx paw, and I was being guided by like an Egyptian person, like looking like, and we went over the palm. It felt like it was the left side, and then we went down, and then the next chapter it was like I was under the pyramids, and then there was pillars, like big pillars that looked like it was holding up the pyramid or something like that. But there were um, going all the way down, and then I did a sketch like the dream, probably like 2 years ago, like 2.5, and then they found the halls of Amenti. They scanned them, and they said all this stuff. So dreams play an important part in all this too, this whole reality. So the next volume 2 is going to be all about dreams and meditating and facing your fears, being fearless, and conquering the dark shadows, the dark brothers. So here we go. Spirals in nature. Here is square geometry in nature, figure 8 and 8. The real thing, it's a nucleus shell cut in half. Sorry, I'm already I'm like, what? It's a nucleus shell cut in half. It's an unwritten rule that every good square geometry book has to have a nautilus shell in it. Many books say this is a golden mean spiral, but it's not. It's a Fibonacci spiral. You can see the perfection of the arms of the spiral, but if you look at the center or beginning, it doesn't look so perfect. You can't really see this detail here. I suggest that you look at a real one. This innermost end actually hits the other side and bends because its value is 1.0, which is a long ways from pi. The second and third ones bend also, but not as much because they are coming closer to pi. Then they start fitting better and better until you see this perfectly graceful form developing. You could think that the little Nautilus made a mistake in the beginning. It looks like he didn't know what he was doing, but he's doing it perfectly. It's not a mistake. He's simply following exactly the mathematics of the Fibonacci sequence. Dreams and spirals. On this pine cone, figure 8 through 9, you see a double spiral, one going one way and one going the other. If you were to count the number of spirals rotating one direction and those going the other direction, you'll find that there are always 2 consecutive Fibonacci numbers. There are perhaps 8 going one way and 13 the other, or 13 going one way and 21 the other. The many other double spiral patterns found throughout nature correspond to this in all cases that I know. For instance, the sunflower spirals are always related to the Fibonacci sequence. Figure 8 through 10 shows the difference between the two. The golden mean spiral is the ideal. It's like God, the source. As you can see, the top 4 squares on both drawings are the same size. The difference is in the areas where they originate. The bottom section of the 2 diagrams, the bottom of the Fibonacci spiral has an area half the size, 0.5, of the area above the golden mean spiral. has an area of has an area 0.618. The size of the area above the Fibonacci spiral shown at near right is constructed using 6 equal squares, whereas the golden mean spiral sorry guys, my reading is not the best. Starts deeper inside. Actually, it never starts. It has been going on forever, like God. Even though the originating point is different, they very quickly approximate each other. Another example. Many books state that the king's chamber is a golden mean rectangle, but it's not. It's also tied to Fibonacci. Fibonacci spirals around humans. When we draw a 64 square grid and incorporate this spiral pattern, we get figure 8 through 11. Superimpose Da Vinci canon over this 8 by 8 grid, figure 812. The 8 squares shaded seem to have a unique attribute. There are 4 possible ways to move a Fibonacci spiral out of one of the 4 double squares. Returning to figure 8 through 11, let's use the upper double square as an example. One way to start is from the upper right corner, as shown by the darker line. It crosses one square, 1. Turns right to cross one more square, 1. Turns right again to cross 2 squares, 2. Interestingly enough, it reaches the top of the grid at this point. Continuing to turn right, it crosses 3, the next number in the sequence, and so on. And son of a gun, it has now reached the 8 side of the grid. The next number is 5, which takes the line to the bottom of the grid. The following number, 8, takes the line across 3 squares before it leaves the grid. There's a perfect reflective quality as this spiral moves out from the beginning square. Another way you could start in this double square is from the lower right corner, as shown by the lighter line. This forms a little pyramid in the top squares. In this case, your 90-degree turns will be to the left, so you cross one square, 1, then 1 again, 1, then 2, this time passing through the center 4 squares of the grid where the original 8 cells reside. After turning left again to cross 3 squares, the line touches the right side of the grid. The next number, 5, will leave the grid after crossing 2 squares. It's a perfect synchronicity of movement. Whenever you see this kind of perfection, you know you're almost surely hitting on really basic geometries. All this is crucial to understand if you care to know how the Egyptians achieved resurrections. They were doing it scientifically, you might say. They were using science to create a synthetic state of awareness that would lead to immortality. We're not going to achieve our awareness synthetically, we're going to do it naturally. But you might find it useful to understand how an ancient civilization was attempting to achieve this. The human grid and 0-point technology. This basic square geometry of 64 square grid around humans is becoming understood in science. In fact, there's an entirely new science happening around it, though it's having a hard time getting out because of politics. This new science is called 0-point technology. This grid is, I believe, the geometry of the future, or whatever. And now we know 0G is very popular. It's getting very popular. Gravity engines. I think like spiral engines. You make an engine that's just like spiraling, like an engine vortex or something. Spiral engine. 0-point technology. Though most scientists see it in a different way, Most people involved in a 0 point technology think of it in terms of waveforms or energy. They talk about the 5 places in a waveform as shown here. Excuse me. Um, Figure 8 through 13. Or they think 0 point as the moment of energy that matter has when and if it reaches 0 degrees Kelvin or absolute zero. To me, both of these ways are valid, but the way based on scalar geometry will eventually become the cornerstone of this new science because this is so fundamental. This is very true, and I'm telling you, this book is like everything's here. All the technology, all the knowledge, everything is like coming through the acacia, through the the meditating and the frequencies and getting on the wavelengths and stuff. These points associated with the waveform are also related to breathing. These points are where the 0 point is accessed. They are like doorways into another world. Yogic pranayama is that usually talked about in terms of those of 2 or 3 places, depending on whether you count the beginning of the next cycle, which are between the in breath and the out breath. That's also 0 point technology if you focus into it on the human breathing. Yeah, I like doing breathing exercises, and right now I smoke like this little pen, and messes with my breathing. But this is true. The more you breathe in, you get energy, and then you push it out. That's why these martial artists, they breathe, and then when they punch, they breathe out, and then they push all that force. And yeah, it's very interesting. The breathing spirals energy. That's how you can stay warm if you're cold. Focus on your breathing and breathe through your mouth. Breathe all that cold energy, and then breathe it out. Or, you can breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, or in through your mouth. There's different techniques, but y'all should look into it. It's very good for you. And eat garlic. It's good for you too. Open up your lungs. Helps you breathe. Male and female originating spirals. I'm not a doctor and don't take my advice seriously, and I'm just a crazy person on the internet. Putting it out there. Okay. Male and female originating spirals. To begin with, we must understand that there are 2 kinds of spirals, depending on whether they are straight lines, male, or curved lines, female. We talked about this before. However, now we are going into introduce a new concept. The originating point of the spiral in this geometric pattern will further determine if it is a male or female in a different way. In a double square, there are 4 corners where a spiral can originate: top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right. See figure 8 through 14. The 2 top positions produce male spirals. The 2 bottom positions, female spirals. The male spiral lines never pass through the center 4 squares. The female lines always do. Figure 8 through 15 shows the 2 kinds of male and female spirals and how they move through this geometric pattern. Let's show you. I'm going to read this little sidebar update. Since the time of Tesla, governments have not allowed the knowledge of 0 point to come forth. Why? Tesla wanted to give free, unlimited energy to the world, which we knew would come from 0 point technology. But J.P. Morgan, who owned many copper mines, did not want electricity to be free. Instead, he wanted to force electricity to pass through copper wires so he could meter it, charge the public, and make money. Tesla was stopped, and the world has been controlled ever since. And whoever owns Tesla now, the name is garbage. Boo! Um, and yeah, because it's not even zero energy, and it's like charging your car and stuff. So imagine if they just had like little zero energy everywhere, like plants, and then every city or every gas station was zero energy, so cars could always use that zero energy field and power themselves from point to point to point, and have these energy fields everywhere, and you wouldn't need gas or electricity to charge up your car, because it would be drawing it from the ether, from the earth. And if they would do that, that would be better. So that would be real Tesla technology, not like charging your car and stuff. Okay. Since that time in the 1940s, any person who researched zero-point technology and talked publicly about it was killed or disappeared until just recently. In 1997, a video company called Lightworks secretly brought together a few of these scientists and filmed their works. They gave the history of what had happened since the 1940s and showed clear working models of the inventions. They showed machines that, once running, give off more electricity than it takes to run them. They showed batteries that never ever needed charging. They showed how an ordinary gasoline motor can be converted to run on ordinary water with more power than gas. They showed panels that will produce boiling water forever as long as the outside temperature is above 40 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. They showed many other scientific inventions considered impossible by today's standards. When Lightworks was done on a single day, the video was released and the information put on a website, Free Energy, the race to 0.105-minute video by Lightworks. Here's a number if you guys want to call: 800-795-8273. $45 PPD. www.lightworks.com. See if they're still around. Call them up. And interesting to get that video and see it. But yeah, stuff like this, see? And the Saint Germaine discourses and all these things, the red line and all this stuff, that one's like fiction. Wait, is that how you say? Yeah, so it's fake, but it's like really like it sounds like it's real. But they describe these things. These ascendant people, these smart people, were showing all these inventions like refrigerators, like music boxes, like Alexa type of devices, like sound rays you can talk, like disc type of things they were describing. And just like in that movie Tomorrowland, I think like how they kind of show like they have like a hidden society with our society, like if they were using all these technologies for themselves, they were probably getting around and creating different tech, within our society, and that's all we see, is them ahead of us, and they're like, oh, it's a UFO, but it's like them too, but they're all working, together. It's like so much things going on, but yeah, that's pretty interesting, huh? This has forced the world to change direction. 2 weeks later, both Japan and England announced that they are very close to solving the cold fusion problem. The world began to change, and they already like working on the fusion, the plasma fusion proportion. I just read a little snippet article that they're creating the fusion engines or something. Like they're like using the 3D printers. They're gonna like basically like design any kind of engine with a 3D printer, and it's like better because it's gonna be more solid, no rivets. It's gonna, like that Terminator tech. Eventually, it's gonna, like, when you type it in and it's gonna come out and it's already gonna be like making itself, like cells and stuff. So on February 13th, 1998, Germany used a world patent on a free energy machine based on carbon, a thin sheet of material that will produce 40 watts of electricity forever. This means that all small appliances such as computers, hair dryers, blenders, flashlights, etc., will not need to be plugged into the system. It is the end of the old way and the birth of unlimited free energy. Okay, then where's it at? Like, come on, pick it up. Pick it up. I know it. It's like they have all these things, and that's what I think. I say, like, repressing knowledge, repressing information, holding them back, not, things like that. Like all these things, like we could be using to benefit humanity in the world, but the reptilians got everybody warped, warp speed. So I think I'm gonna take a little break, commercial break. Here we go. We're back at it. 5 more pages left, so bear with me, and we'll be done with this book, and then on to volume 2. But here we go. In figure 8 through 18, we see the female spirals around the human body, which originate at the bottom, excuse me, or closer points to center. Here we show primarily the male straight line aspect of these female spirals. The female curved aspect, only 2 female spirals are shown, not all 8, which form a heart. Notice the pattern they create. One heart faces one way, and after it has been extended 180 degrees, a bigger heart faces the other way. Every one of these curved female lines passes through 0 point at the exact center of the human body. This 0 point is the creation point, or what we would call the womb. It is for this reason that females have the womb in their bodies and females do not. Males never pass through 0 point. Later you'll see these heart-shaped relationships tied to many other natural phenomenon, such as light, eyes, and emotions, to mention a few, so keep them in mind. Now, with that understanding, we're going to look at another sequence. There are thousands of mathematical sequences. I suppose on one level you could even say an infinite number, but in useful terms there are many. A sequence can simply be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In every one of those thousands and thousands of sequences known to man, 3 numbers are required to identify the pattern. The whole sequence, with the exception of the golden mean logarithmic sequence, in which case you need only 2. This implies that it is probably the source of all other sequences. According to my guidance, 2 sequences besides the golden mean are of major importance to nature and life. They are the Fibonacci sequence, which we just looked at, and which and the binary sequence we are just about to look at. Here we will see the Fibonacci as female, and the binary as male. They are really more than just female and male. They act more as mother and father. They are both primary, coming straight from the golden mean, just as the 2 primary colors that come from white light are red and blue. Binary sequencing in cell divisions and computers. Yeah, they're using computers, brains, computer brain, organics, all that computer chips. The binary sequence 8 through 18 is a mitosis. Pause. Is a mitosis that simply doubles each time, such as from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. Instead of adding to the last number like we do in the Fibonacci sequence, we double it. Let's look at the binary sequence for a moment. It goes 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, doubling at each jump. In order to determine the characteristics of the sequence, all you need to do is take any three consecutive numbers in the sequence, like 2, 4, and 8. You double the 2 and get 4, and double the 4 to get 8. It takes three consecutive numbers to positively identify the doubling process. In terms of a pronucleus, metotic cell, metotic cell division, by the time the first cells form into the apple shape, there have been 9 cell divisions, totaling 12 cells. Holding that in mind, look at these two facts. Fact 1, shown in figure 8 through 19, there are 10 to the power of 14 cells in the average human body. That's 100 trillion cells in the average person. That's a lot of zeros. Fact 2, in the same figure, an adult human body has to replace 2.5 million red blood cells in every second of life. That definitely sounds like a lot. It would take you about 2.5 months just to count to 2.5 million if you were doing it day and night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yet, if we are to stay alive, our bodies have to create millions of new blood cells every second to replace the dead ones, and the only way this can be achieved is through mitotic cell division. Mitotic cell division. You look at it and say, well, it's become 512 with only 9 divisions. So it's going to have to really go for it to get up to this 100 trillion. But there's something almost magical that happens. Anyone who has studied mathematics knows this. But if you have never studied this before, it feels almost like magic. This is what happens, figure 8 through 20. After the next 10 divisions, cells have multiplied to over 500,000. When it divides 10 more times, there are 536 million. According to Anna C. Pye and Helen Marcus Roberts in their book Genetics, Its Concepts and Implications, it takes exactly 46 mitotic cell divisions to reach the 10 to the 14th power cells of the human body. It takes only 46 divisions. It's magical to me that this number 46 happens to be the number of chromosomes we have in the average cell. Chance or coincidence? These numbers are amazing. It's not amazing if you've studied it, because by then you're often immune to it, but it still amazes me. I would like to talk about how computers work. I started to mention how we've got carbon and silicon are seen back and forth between each other, and who's making the silicon computers? We are, carbon-based beings. Out of all the various mathematical possibilities, we chose the binary sequence as the basis of how the computer works. It's the basis of the whole computer system. and it's also one of the primary bases of life itself. I feel sure it has not an I feel sure it was not an accident that we chose the binary sequence because we are life, and deep inside we know the importance of this sequence. Dang. And then the ancient androids are like, this is life. Oh, like they know too. I know most of you probably know this, but nevertheless, I want to show how a computer works. Imagine little light switches called computer chips, and when you one turn on one of these lights, you see the number just designated for that chip. If you turn on the one chip, you see one. If you have 5 computer chips in your computer, they're designated 1, 2, 4, 8, and 16. You can turn. Yeah, I'm gonna just show you all these binary stuff. Um, I'm not the best at math, but I definitely try to understand it and try to, like, you know, when I have to do it, I'll do it. But that's one thing, when I go back to college, I'm gonna um, take a math class, algebra. If there's any tutors out there, send me some mathematical equations. Okay. Here we go. These 5 chips on or off to get any number between 1 and 31. If you turn on just the one chip, you see the number 1. If you turn on the second chip, designated as 2, you see the number 2. The same for chip 4, chip 8, and chip 16. By turning on every combination of those 5 chips and adding them up, you can come up with any number between 1 and 31. In other words, if you turn on the first chip, you get 1. Turn on the second one on and get 2. And if you turn the first 2 on at the same time, you get 3. The next one you turn on is 4, and 1 is 5, 4, and 2 is 6, 4, and 2 and 1 is 7. Then for 8, you turn on the 8 chip, 8 and 1 is 9, 8 and 2 is 10, 8 and 2 and 1 is 11, 8 and 4 is 12, 8 and 4 and 1 is 13, 8 and 4 and 12 is 14, and 8 and 4 and 2 and 1 is 15. Then for chip 16, you turn on the 16 chip. Adding the 5th chip gives you all numbers through 31 when they are combined in every possible way. If you add just one more chip and call it 32, now you get every number between 1 and 63. If you add another chip and call it 64, you can get every number between 1 and 127, and so on. If you have a computer that has 46 chips, you can get every single number between 1 and 1 trillion just by turning 46 little chips on and off. This is what has enabled the unfoldment of knowledge that's happening so rapidly on the planet right now, and your body has been using this technology for millions of years. Yeah, 0 point energy. And that's like what the oscillator is, the human body, when it's like oscillating and it's like creating like all these like vortexes and going to different dimensions in the body, the quantum mind, Searching for the form behind polarity. I studied the Fibonacci and binary sequence with the guidance of the angels, who were constantly leading me through it. The more I studied them, the more I personally believed that there must be geometry behind them, a secret form that created these number sequence. Since the angels said that the human body and geometry fields are the measuring stick of the universe, I suspected strongly that if these two sequences were like two mother, father, male, female components, then there must be a single geometric form behind them, a form that generated both. I searched for a way to weed them. I looked for this secret for years, for a long time. I was very serious about it. Then I gave up because I couldn't figure out what it was. But I always kept one eye open for an answer, always looking for a little clue that would maybe do it. And one day I got it. And that's how they always come, clues. And you always got to keep one eye open. The Eye of Ra or the Eye of Horus. And, they showed Three Eye, that new movie, Spielberg, that's coming out. And I'll follow this guy, Dubzonian Power. Go check him out. He has a telescope, so he's like looking at all this stuff. But he was looking at the new, poster for the Spielberg movie, and he flipped it over, and I was like, oh, it looks like the Eye of Ra. And he looked it up, and he's like, oh wow, like it really does, and this and that. So yeah, so and then Three Eye Atlas went behind the sun, and then the sun started blowing up, erupting. Now there's all kinds of earthquakes, volcanic eruption, magnetic storms, all this stuff, and maybe that could be, the wrath of Ra coming down, and that's that 0 point energy, because like that rave I went to, and then they tranquilized me and put me to sleep and all that stuff, so I removed my hands a lot. So like I experienced something like that. It was like 0G, like I blasted off to these entities, and we're going around in an infinity like loop. It was like a loop, but we were passing energy, and those are related to the uncontrollables in the cycles that move super fast. And basically we're moving super fast, and we're sharing energy, and they brought me back to life, and like my heart stopped and everything for like, I was like, my heart like they said it stopped, and it's just like whatever, they had to put oxygen in my nose and all this stuff. But it was like that. I was like my breathing, and studying the Book of the Dead, they say that your body, if it tears and breaks apart, like your soul would always go to its body, and your breathing, and the gods with the air will, come inside you and give you life, air. And very important to study those, and you get some extra lives in this reality with those secret sayings and stuff. And Zen Guru. Excuse me. So yeah, this is crazy. Crazy people on the internet these days, I'll tell you, huh? So what, are y'all liking the reading? Yay or nay? Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for tuning in, and bear with me, and we'll be done with this chapter and journey. And if you guys ever come back to this, people, hi, and thank you guys for coming so late. But it's better to be late than never come at all, right? So here we go. And if you didn't come, then it's fine. It's understandable. Things happen, right? The Polar Graph Solution, a 6th grade math book. A little boy I was taking care of was in the 6th grade, and he wanted to know about a particular mathematical problem. It was a relatively simple problem, but I didn't remember how to do it. I looked through this book to remember how it went so I could explain it. As I was going through this book, I saw the geometry I needed in a 6th grade math book. The author of the book didn't understand what I was seeing because he was thinking along a totally different line. But I saw in the mathematics of it something I'd been looking for, and it was the key that tied these two primary sequences together. I'm sorry that I don't remember the name of the book or the author. It was a long time ago. It's okay, it happens. But it showed a polar graph and its relationship to a golden mean spiral. Figure 8 to 21 is a map of the South Pole on a polar graph. Notice the cross through the center, one line following the x-axis and the other the y. Every circle does in fact have these lines crossing it. We demonstrated this by taking a flat disk about half an inch thick, randomly scattering sand all over it. Excuse me. We held it by a handle underneath and hit it with a wooden mallet. The sand would rearrange itself into a perfectly square cross like you see in this illustration. And now they do that with the sounds, and they put the sounds and stuff, and then they make all the geometric patterns and stuff. What is it called? Sematics, something like that. Some with an S or a P. Some phonema. I don't know, but yeah, now, like, see, these guys were ahead of their field and stuff, and I think in the temples in India and Prophet Mohan, he shows all those patterns. They're like, oh wow, look at these things, and then I think, like, okay, what about, like, it was like how they say, like, the liquid cement or whatever, and then they were just hitting it with the sound they wanted, and then the cement would turn into that pattern, and then it would just, like, solidify or get hard or something like that. Or they were, like, building it like a 3D printer, printing it out or something like that, and creating these shapes. Then you could move, like, massive blocks. How they're showing now, they're, like, using sound to move blocks and stuff. So there could be something going on to that. And this is years ago. How I keep telling y'all, the sound would rearrange itself into perfectly squares across, like you see in this illustration. I think that's what they're talking about. Okay. If we use a sound generator on the disc, the sound would change into many other geometric patterns, but the very first pattern that emerges by striking a round disc at a low rate will be a perfectly square cross. When you have a circle with a square cross over it, you take the radius of the circle as your measuring stick and call it 1. That makes the calculation very easy. Drawing concentric circles the same distance outward from the first radius gives you a polar graph. Spirals on a polar graph. Look at Neuschwazenland. Deutschland. The spiral swastikas. Now, but yeah, like, reading this too, like I'm reading and I get these ideas and stuff, but it also reminded me of that other dream, with the infinity sign coming from space, and then the black android spheres coming out, the black spheres out of the shipping containers, and it was something like that, and it was like they had swastikas. It was basically like all this life coming out of the ocean through the nano, like, cells creating and dividing in the ocean, and they were, like, growing all these like trilobites, and they had human skulls on them with black swastikas on their foreheads. But it reminds me of that, like, stuff like that too, like and I didn't want to say it, but I was like, might as well just say it. But it was something like that. These life forms sending out life, and then they come, and then they just spiral out of control and create all the sea life. I seen all that in the dream. All like those spiral little things that came out. They're trilobites, and then they became into man, and then they came out of the ocean. And I woke up, and I'm waking up right now, like just a dream. Spirals on the polar graph. This is how a polar graph usually looks. 8 through 21, with 36 radial lines, including the vertical and horizontal lines. These lines indicate. Oh wow, my phone. I gotta charge it. Break time. We're real quick. Real break.